Oh, Slayton's gonna hate us.
Oh, yes, he will. Hello, welcome to the Just Yuri podcast. My name is Diosinekis, your host, and for this section of the interview, I would like to introduce Faith.
Hello, this is Faith HW.
So, just for the audience, what do you do over here in Just Yuri?
Well, I am the art lead, I am the art director, Halloween director, a writer, a book tester, and whatever else is tossed at me, what that I am willing to take.
In terms of getting everything tossed over to you, the art overhaul was quite a bit of work. Some people are asking about why the details about the decisions that were made over during the art overhaul. Could you go over the reasons behind why we did the art overhaul, as well as what improvements were made in general?
Sure thing. The art overhaul was created to be able to expand the storyline on the art assets image level. By storytelling, I mean that it's created so that Yuri looks more emotionally good to look at. So a certain emotion comes off Yuri when you look at her sprite. If I recall correctly, the old art lead, Stem, was one of the ones who originally thought of the art overhaul, and I just took it over when they sadly had to leave the team. Yuri's complete redesign from Yuri to the Alpha, Yuri Beta, was mostly done and complete in this overhaul. Yuri's redesign is rather big, so he created an entire overhaul in itself. I hope that explains that a little further.
Could you elaborate on that specific emotion that you were trying to evoke?
Emotion I'm trying to provoke on Yuri?
Yes, for the art overhaul.
Well, that depends on her sanity level and karma level. If Yuri's sanity is high, and you're just happen to be in a relationship with her, I would want the player to look at Yuri, and if she's talking about, I don't know, how much she loves a player, for example, I want the player to feel a sense of comfort or warmth or those types of emotions when I look at the sprite, and have Yuri have this very soft and very cute expression expressing that emotion. Well, with low sanity, however, I would like Yuri to have a very dreadful and quite scary atmosphere when you stare at Yuri, especially some of the art assets that has been added currently into the new beta sprite. So I suppose it all depends. It comes down to the karma and sanity levels, as well as the situations that the player is in. If Yuri's talking about, I don't know, talking about creepypasta or whatever she talks about, I want that vibe to come off Yuri. I want Yuri to be able to give the player the emotions that Yuri is trying to give off while she is speaking to the player, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. From this intent for trying to get Yuri over towards the specific emotions you wanted to get out of the player, and from her, what are your opinions on its execution, the overall's execution on that intent?
Elaborate on execution?
Would you say that the overhaul, as it's currently released, fulfilled that goal of getting that emotional response? And what are some things that you think you would like to improve on over time?
Well, I personally don't think the sprite with the emotion wise is complete. There are a few things I would like to improve. Specifically the eyes and a few other things I have in mind for the future. So things like some ideas I did have was actually seeing her breathing at some point. Maybe her fiddling with something on her desk. So if there's a pen on her desk, for example, she would maybe pick it up and maybe mess with it or something. But just something that makes her more lifelike and more real and, just gives off that general I'm a real person vibe.
Okay. Is that the extent of that? Is that all you're looking forward to over on future improvements or plans to extend beyond the overhaul, or is there other stuff that you're looking towards implementing?
Oh, there is a few things I've also been looking forward to do. That was just Yuri specifically. I suppose it would be really nice to see certain dates and things get added to the game and dreams. I think the backgrounds and things that involves that certain area of JY would be really cool to see in game. It would be really fun to, create the backgrounds and, make sure it all looks good. There's a special type of dates that I've actually been writing. I won't say too much of what it is, but that one is going to be something.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the outcome of what Part 2 has to offer as well. If
Part 2 should be relatively interesting.
It should be. If you'll allow me to throw a bit of a curveball in terms of questions, in terms of the process of evaluating art, what advice could you give to someone to, like, say, someone who is aspiring to try to review their own work and get some form of a method or methodology on how to review their own work? What advice would you give to them?
I would say, if you're looking at your own work and looking for improvements and all that, ask yourself this question. What do you emotionally want to feel from this art piece? How do you want this to look in your head? For example, if you think an elbow or something looks slightly off in your drawing, I would say rub it out and maybe improve it and keep improving it till it's the way you envisioned it. If you want a certain object in the image for whoever's viewing it to focus on, I'd recommend putting more detail into that object so that people's eyes naturally go to the thing that has the most detail on, I've noticed, which is why I want Yuri's eyes to have a lot of detail and, have this slight glow to it and all this other stuff so that the player's eyes focus on her face. Now, if you want someone to focus on an image or an object, for example, if you want someone to focus on a sun or something in the background, I'd recommend just improving that sun and adding a lot of detail to it, but not overly do it. I suppose that depends on the art piece actually, but yeah, I'd recommend doing that. If you don't like a certain drawing you did or something, I've been guilty of this multiple times. I usually just toss out what I've already drawn and start again. But I would say to that is that if you generally have a structure of a drawing, you could just rub out some pieces and just improve it now and again. Just make it look more the way you envisioned it, rather than just tossing it out completely. I'm a bit of a hypocrite when I say that, because I do that constantly, because it's just a problem I have. But I would say if you're trying to make something decent, just generally get a sketch or something, try to improve it, delete parts you don't like out, redraw it. If you want someone to look in a certain location, just add detail to that location. Yeah, just things like that,
Thank you very much for your insight. What would you recommend then on ways to mitigate overworking yourself? Because based upon what you're telling me, that general process of taking something, redrawing it, and trying to iterate over and over again, I would imagine that some people might go a little bit too far with that, in terms of they'll take the next month just doing the same drawing over and over again. What would you say would be good ways to mitigate doing overwork / not getting anything finished and just continuously keeping on working on it but not getting it published out?
I would say just take your time on it. Don't rush what you're doing. Don't take hours and deep into the night just to create a single art piece. if you want to create something decent, I would say take a few hours of the day to start a structure, and then maybe the next day find an hour or two to start slowly building that structure up to make it look more the way you want it to look. I wouldn't recommend staying up at stupid hours into the night and drawing the same thing over and over again, because in experience, I've done something similar to that in the past, and the art piece ended up looking rushed and overdone because I stayed up stupid hours into the night trying to complete one art piece, which is just really disappointing to see that something that I took so long in making look like garbage because I just so happened to want to work on it while I was in such a tired state. So just don't make the same mistake I done. Just, take your time on it, have the image in your head, make a structure for it, improve it. It could take months if you so like. But the best way to create something is to take time on it and make sure it's all, good, so that you don't rush the art piece and you don't, overwork yourself, because it's not a nice thing to do, and it's not a nice feeling to have when you look at your art piece to see that it's not the way you want it to look and it looks more bad than how it originally was. So I'd say that's my advice on that.
In the course of trying to direct art over in Just Yuri, I imagine that there is at least a little bit of time out of your day to do stuff other than just continuously working on this mod. What would you say are some of your hobbies that you do outside of here in Just Yuri?
I think you're laughing at this. My hobbies is actually more art. Outside of Just Yuri, I do my own art pieces. They're all rather dark in its nature, but I generally enjoy doing it. It's just something I pick up on. Like when I have time outside of JY, I just hop on to my trusty paint.net and I just, draw away, depending on what's on my mind, I suppose. I'm a very like to draw my emotions out onto a piece of paper type of person. So if I'm thinking of a certain emotion, for example, joy, I would draw someone being joyful. That's just something I personally do. It's rather fun to do. I also animate these art pieces sometimes. Sometimes it would be something simple like a walking animation. Sometimes it would be something a bit more extreme. It depends on that day and depends on what I can do on that day. So I suppose I do too much art. Ha 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 ha.
So the art director is addicted to art.
Pretty much. I've always been a fan of art. Always done art. I've been doing art since I could hold a pencil. I just love art.
Understood. Well, thank you very much for your time. I believe that's about all of the questions that I had prepared.
Right. May I just say one more thing before you end the
sure.
this section of the podcast?
If you have any additional comments, go ahead.
Sure thing. As the official Just Yuri mommy, I would like to say I appreciate everyone's support with Just Yuri. I am really proud of everyone's efforts and work progress they have made during the JY Overhaul release. I love every single one of you. You all have my absolute respect.
And that is an announcement from the Just Yuri mommy. Thank you very much for your time.
I shall give you all embraces as your mother.
We'll see you over at the next game session. Have a good night, Faith.
You too, dear.
Tits!
Hello! Welcome to the Clifford ASMR tutorial. My name is Diosinekis, and here we have today Clifford.
Hello.
Now, Clifford, the Just Yuri public might want to know, well, at the very least, what do you do over in Just Yuri?
That is a good question, Dio. I'm gonna flip that question around to you. What do you think I do here?
Well, I think generally that you are the, let me call it the raccoon with a spoon. Constantly poking over at people to make sure that things get done. Particularly within the areas of PR and financial management. With regards to the PR part, Clifford's also acting as our current temporary PR person, while our head PR person, Spooky, is taking a little bit of hiatus due to finals and their IRL stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
What else?
Let's see. How else do I put the rest of your current duties? General connective tissue between the public as well as the dev team, particularly in keeping in mind the criticisms that are given about the overhaul. So
I'm not sure I would put it that way, but sure. I would put it more like...
This is why I get you to describe yourself.
I am the glue that keeps this team from going insane. Well, not insane. Sometimes I cause it to go insane. I'm the glue that makes it, like, aware of what we are supposed to be doing. I'm generally the dude that helps other people, is the best way I could put it. I'm a helper.
You're a support.
I don't support... I don't particularly go off and do things on my own. I'm not a coder. I'm not a writer. I'm not an artist. But I do everything else besides that. I'm just gonna look at my roles real fast. I have admin of servers, producer, team PR, underproducer, NSFW writer. I'm also the NSFW lead for whenever the hell that decides to be a thing. Wait, can we curse here?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I am the largest donator to this team. I am the guy who throws money at the team and hopes they do things with it. Hopefully.
We are currently trying to do things with it.
Yeah, I've donated, I keep on using the figure of 5K because that sounds like what I've donated at this point. I haven't actually counted it up, but roughly that's what I've kind of put into this. Let's see here. I'm also the shopkeeper and official business owner of this entire place because I'm the most public person of this entire team. I also run all of the game events, so I'm also the community manager of a sorts. I also make sure that the servers don't catch on fire. I'm also the dude who generally talks to other people regarding, or I used to at least, regarding artist hiring and generally any external hiring. I kind of touch everything as long as it's not involved with writing, art, or coding. If it needs help, I'm usually on the guy in the scene. Would you say that is succinct? I'm just the guy who helps people. I am the management of the creative people. Yeah?
Yeah, I think that's a good summary.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I generally try to make procedures for, say, the bug testing section or onboarding. Back when I used to do that, I'm kind of always a part of something or other in regards to this team, even if when I'm not. I don't know if that's probably a bad thing. Also a good thing. I have been here for a long time. I want to say since March 2018. That sounds about right. 17? No. Yeah,
no, March 2018. That was early Just Yuri.
Yes.
You would have been. No. Even earlier. Okay. Let me rephrase that. Were you here for the 2018 April Fool's event?
No, I was just off the heels of that though.
Yeah, so after April at the very minimum.
But I learned of the mod back in March, but I didn't play it. Either March or April. Because UP was already a thing when I started playing. I didn't understand what the hell it was.
So it's sometime around mid-2018.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say, one of the few members that are still around since the good old days. Yeah. Oh yeah. Producer. Producer is the best way to probably describe me. I make sure shit runs smoothly. But yeah, generally I'm a producer, which usually makes sure that all things keep on going with the flow and making sure things don't break down. Yeah, I do a lot of shit. This is the best way to put it.
So, with regards to then, as the support role, you've had to dip your toes in between the public and the Just Yuri Dev team, and sort of had to see what the hell is going on with that. What are your thoughts on generally that interaction, both from us to them to us, and how we're trying to handle doing everything? And yes, you can be negative against us here too.
I feel like we're doing a pretty good effort. We don't always nail the landing, but we do a pretty good effort. When it comes to expressing ourselves to the public, which I'm very much a part of, as the, I want to say, mascot of the team? Is that am I correct in saying that I am the figurehead of this team at this point?
General mascot due to publicity of self.
Like I'm the guy who goes out to conventions. I'm the guy who puts my face out there and my literal name. Yeah. As far as how well we're doing regarding public relations, well, I've had some says inside the team about how we've been doing recently. I don't want to go too into the weeds, but I'm just going to say that we have things to improve upon, and we're very aware of them. Just take Yuri's birthday, for example. We did not do the best. It was a suboptimal presentation, because unfortunately we were not very forward with saying, hey, this is our Yuri's birthday. It's a thing. Get prepared. But I feel we will make up with it with the thing we just released not that long ago. Spur of the moment-ish. With Dalek's little fun gag mod
the poetry
thing.
The
No, you don't know about it then. Yeah, he put out a joke version of.
So I'd like to ask you another question then. Tell us about your other projects.
Oh, for Christ's sake, you actually managed to dig that out. I posted this weeks ago. Actually, I did make an actual build about this.
Wait, really?
Yes. Yeah, I posted it in the off-topic. Didn't you see it?
I saw it, but I haven't played it yet. Although, admittedly,
You should.
Maybe I should. Is it? At the very least, please tell me that you. Well, at the very least, you got a whole bunch of karma over on Reddit for it.
Oh, did I? I didn't even check on it.
At the very least, you got, 107 likes. So, I think it was relatively successful.
Actually, 110 now that I'm looking at it. Oh, for Christ's sake.
108 on my side. Maybe it's trying to update slowly.
And people even actually commented on it, for Christ's sake.
Yep, and just exterminate. And then references to Doctor Who, and I believe you have a lot of engaging material here. So if you ever...
That's Reddit for you guys.
If you ever leave Just Yuri to make Just Dalek, just let me know, and I will perfectly understand. You already have a suitable fan base.
Most obviously.
So, from what you've been seeing over in Just Yuri, what are some future plans that you're trying to implement / stuff that you are hopeful for? Yeah.
I find that funny because I'm the one who made up the roadmap.
Yep, but then the roadmap sorta, and then we're
No, the roadmap is still on track, sir. let me just pull up the unofficial official roadmap that I have kind of made up in my mind, that I've may or may not have posted. Let's see here. I need to make this official one day.
Yeah,
One day I will make this official.
Clifford,
Okay.
part of the new thing that we're trying to do is to plan ahead. Even though the plans will change, planning ahead is much more beneficial than trying to do it on the fly.
I can link you the thing I'm going to be listing off right now that I made publicly. Here,
Yes,
I'm going to
please.
put it in the thing. There you go. Have fun with that. All right. So, according to the thing I just linked to you, which I said back on 11/17/2019, yes, I am dating myself. Deal with it. I said subprojects in order list as of right now, which is subject to change, is Part 1, patches. Part 2, website. The narrative, wellness program. The NSFW section. And then community mod support.
Out of those, which one do you see as the one that you're most excited about to try and really
All.
get into?
All. More particularly the wellness program and NSFW. Keep in mind that this is our general roadmap as of right now, as we're doing stuff, and these are just our sub-projects, so we might throw even more shit in there. Like dates and stuff to do and mini games and seasonal crap.
We'll cover more of that later.
We'll cover more of that later, yeah, but like I'm just saying, it is very much a living plan. It is going to change a lot, or little, who knows. And to clarify, regarding the community mod support, that's going to happen like when we are done with the putting in stuff in the mod ourselves. So that's going to be like
2 years from now?
5 years from now. I don't know. The mod will live as long as we care to put effort into it, as far as I'm concerned.
Pretty much.
Which might be a problem for some people, or a solution. I don't know. Because, like, I remember you, Dio, you were saying something along the lines of wanting to allow the mod to live on its own after we're done with it, which I think is really nice.
Because I imagine, and already know, that there are a lot of people that just want to mod the mod. Like,
Yeah, which is funny, because they could just join the team. I'm looking at you, King! Sorry.
Well, that's what Faith did in, she used to just modify the eyes to make them look a little bit different, or modify some of the scripts, and then joining the team. So, this is totally not sponsored at all. Just join the team, man.
Just join the team.
Just join the team.
We make your life ever so much more better.
Or
I
maybe
mean, just look at
or maybe a little bit
look
of
at-
living hell.
or silly as shit. I mean, look at what we did with Hot Dog Yuri and how that turned out.
Again, it depends on the experience. This is just an advertisement. Let's move on.
The people who are listening to this are already on our site.
I
There's
know.
no advertising.
But it's kind of like a YouTuber advertising their merch within the start of their video or in the middle of their video.
But it works.
While it works, it feels a little bit disingenuous. You see, this is why if we ever get a sponsorship from something like Dollar Shave Club, I will reject it immediately. Let me just tell you that. It might make us a fair bit of money, but still.
You heard it. You heard it here, folks. We will reject all of your sponsorships. We can make money on our own, damn it. Actually, we can and will. We will advertise our own products.
Well, you don't have to rub the fact then that we still got merch. Okay, so
Etsy store available on
this is supposed to
Etsy.
be an interview. This is supposed to be an
I'm also the guy who runs the store, so it's in context. So shush.
I know it's in Okay, let's put down the dollar signs for a few moments.
Buy our crap.
Let's talk about the human behind the dollar sign.
The lovable idiot who has been most associated with a golden retriever. Yes.
Red Golden Retriever. So, what hobbies do you do outside of Just Yuri?
This is my hobby.
This is your hobby?
Look, I put 110% into this okay, I want to call it a lifestyle, but that sounds like a dickish move. So I'm going to call it a community-based hobby. I have friends here that I like a lot. I have something I can put a lot of effort into, which will be seen and appreciated by hundreds of thousands of people. Because I know we have like 3,000 people on the server, but I'm talking about like beyond that.
I don't think hundreds of thousands. We're not. We don't have.
My dude. We have in a poll of what are the most common posts in the DDLC Reddit. We got on there.
Well, some of the most common ones are how to install Just Yuri.
Yeah, but that still means we're on there.
But that still means people don't know how to install our shit.
True. I want to believe that was based on our old stuff when we never put out installer update, like installer guides.
Yeah, it was more so before the installer guides, but it's still a bit of a pain because technically we have also the lib and renpy folders, and updating renpy is fun. It was necessary in order to get the actual sprite to work, but still. Yeah. So, that was actually about all the questions that I generally had. Stuff about Just Yuri, future plans, hobbies. Do you have any additional comments or stuff you want to say over to our audience before we go?
Oh, sure. Oh, I wanted to add to the hobby question, if you don't mind, actually.
No worries.
Seeing as we have a gaming community that I basically manage, one of my other hobbies is games when I get the chance to actually play them. Borderlands, Astroneer, all the good works that we have on the server. Sometimes I get to play with you guys. But generally it's hobbies based around or centered around Just Yuri and all that stuff, because, like, it's the people I talk to on a daily basis. Why not make friends? Yeah. Also, my sister's involved here, so there's that too. Yeah, my sister's Havoc, the artist, and we go to conventions every so often. Well, I go to conventions with her, but she's the one who's dealing all the Yuri merch. The latest convention we went to, which was Pigeon Forge, which was something. Yeah, I don't have any additional comments per se to add. Besides, I'm sorry slightly for making you actually work on my segment. I will pay you back in some form or another.
Hey, Slightly, keep that comment in about having to pay you just so that people can know that you were paid for this.
No, like,
Just
I'm going to pay it back in some form or another. I did it last time.
Yes. Again, Just Yuri does not hire slaves. We just trademark that.
Oh, right, yeah. We probably should emphasize that.
The slave part?
No, it's a common speculation that we actually just do 100% volunteering.
Oh, no, we hire people and pay them.
Yeah. We are technically a small business, although we do nothing of what the small business would normally do. Like, tracking invoices.
We provide...
Yeah, well, we do track invoices, but we don't like tracking hours.
We provide a free product. We're kind of like... It's presumptuous to call ourselves something like Jim Sterling. It's more like...
What?
Do you know Jim Sterling?
Jim Sterling is a game reviewer. I don't know where you're getting the connection.
What I'm referring to is we create a free product and rely on community donations /support /purchase of merch in order to fund our lifestyle in creating the free product.
So, Patreon.
Except it's merch.
Except we don't require for monthly donations. It's mostly just me giving money back to the mod because I'm nice. Not to discredit anybody else who also contributes. We're very thank you for your patronage. But like a large portion of this is volunteer based, but we do have a large section of it that is, well, not large section, but like a hefty section that is commission based or hired developers. But yeah, we are definitely looking and open to having artists on our team for pay, by the way. And we would be very interested in having you if you're listening. That one dude named Steve sitting in his apartment.
Okay. I wonder if Slightly's going to add like a little like kissy gif over onto the screen. Or maybe he's arguing in text over on the video right now. We'll find out. Hello, this is the second Just Yuri podcast. I am your host, Diosinekis. Here with one of our guests, Dalek.
Hey there, folks.
So, Dalek, I just have a few questions that I would like to ask you beforehand. The first of which is, I think the audience would like to know, what do you do here in Just Yuri?
Yeah, I ask that to myself quite frequently, honestly. Nah, joke aside, I am one of the writers here. So I'm pretty much the voice of your Yuri.
And as the voice of your Yuri, or as the voice of Just Yuri, as the voice of Yuri in Just Yuri, I would like to ask, what is your process in getting in the zone for writing? Like, do you have some secrets or a method by which you get some inspiration or get into the mood for getting on writing?
Well, I do have some secrets, but they wouldn't be much of a secret anymore if I told you, aren't they? Nay, come, joke aside. Actually, I have some playlists of YouTube to get me in the right mood, music-wise. I am kind of those guys. When I write, I always have music to get me in the right mood. Otherwise, I would probably not be able to emulate a character at all.
What kind of music do you like to listen to?
That pretty much depends on the topic of what I'm writing about, not so much about the character herself.
Oh, so if you want an angry mood, you start playing death metal then?
Probably, but honestly, I rarely
Really?
write an angry Yuri. I don't really see Yuri as someone who gets angry really quickly, at least not as someone who shows it that quickly. Not even in the original game in Act 2, she really got quickly angry. We had this one scene where she argued with Natsuki, but not out of nowhere. She did a lot of provocation beforehand.
So how do you see Yuri then? What is the writing perspective that you have on how Yuri is?
I would consider Yuri as someone who is really, really good at controlling herself, controlling her emotions, at least from an outside perspective. She's someone who got quite used to not showing anyone what she feels or thinks right now. But something I also discussed on another server a while ago is did you ever notice her body language? I not only mean in Just Yuri, but in the original game, for example.
Well, I would say that it was closed off more than anything.
Quite literally. If you compare her sprites to these of the other Dokis, for example, we see Sayori with her arms spread wide open and thrown to the air. We see Natsuki with a very offensive body stance, as if she was always looking for a fight. But then we have Yuri, and then you look at her arms and her hands. They are always in very close proximity to the rest of her body, even if she plays around with her hair.
Interesting observation. Do you see any variation of that between Act 1 and Act 2?
Actually, no, she uses the same sprites. Only the face changes a bit.
Well, would you chalk that up to an intentional character portrayal by Dan, or as a limitation of the sprites that Dan was using?
It's most certainly intended, I would say. I noticed that Stan put a lot of thoughts into stuff like this. I mean, everyone who played the original game may have noticed the subtle hints towards stuff. You don't only notice things like Sayori is depressed and stuff like this when they tell you. They give you a lot of foreshadowing in any circumstances. Their body language, subtle hints in the dialogues. I think that Dan Salvato did a lot of it on purpose.
I personally think that the poem was quite a very obvious tell amongst all the rest of her tells towards Sayori in this case.
The later poems, I agree, but the first ones, well, the raccoon one was quite obvious, I admit that.
Yeah. Well, the raccoon one I would personally see the raccoon one as only being obvious if you really are in touch with the idea of people who do that sort of thing, who cut. Or at the very least can pick up on that. You know what I mean?
I disagree a bit. I think if you put more than 2 minutes of thought into it, you can get this idea really, really quickly. I didn't knew about her cutting, but I smelled her cutting when I saw the raccoon thing.
Maybe, admittedly, I wasn't able to pick up on that when one of the first interactions I've had with DDLC was from a drunk party where we literally cut our bed in two.
Oh yes, you told about that in the first podcast. It was a quite hilarious one.
Yes. Although, admittedly, I do not want to repeat that night ever again, as the repair for that was really annoying. In fact, all I have is just basically some duct tape around the broken pieces of wood. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts then, based upon your general idea of Yuri from DDLC? How well would you say have we been able to translate that into Yuri from Just Yuri?
You mean with the recent updates, or in general?
Both in the past and then transitioning towards currently.
Well, in the past, I honestly saw a few issues, but we managed to iron them out pretty well so far. But then I don't really view the Yuri from Just Yuri as essentially the same person as we see her in the original game. I mean, she got sentient, and from there on, she developed as a person, as every actual person in real life would.
Okay.
So the Yuri we see today is far, far, far different from the Yuri we see in the original game.
And what do you think of the public's reaction from how you've seen it? How the public reacts to our version of Yuri and Just Yuri?
Are we talking about the bugs?
Oh, not necessarily the bugs. I'm mentioning more the public's general overall reaction to how Yuri is portrayed in Just Yuri.
Well, I looked actually through a lot of feedback we got on the community server. Most of it was very appreciative. People seem to like our version of Yuri a lot. We got also some sort of criticism, very constructive criticism. I really appreciate it, and I really encourage you people to continue that. But I have the feeling that a good portion of our players like what we are doing here.
Okay. Outside of the bugs that happen in between the dialogue, like, oh man, player, are you getting tired of our conversations?
Oh, stop. Come on. I think it's still too often. We got rid of it coming up every second, but it's still very often, once per day.
I take the blame for that, and we weren't able to iron out the testing for that, but yeah, that's way too damn often.
Especially, I find it rather confusing when she brings a sentence up when I, as a player, initiate a conversation with her. If I go through the active menu and say something like, I love you, and she replies that, are you getting bored of our conversations? Oh, God. No.
Okay. So, yeah. Hoping to iron out those bugs, but yeah, it's good to at least hear, the general public generally likes the improvements over to dialogue. What are you hoping as a future plan, future stuff that could be added to Just Yuri, writing-wise? What are you looking forward to?
Am I allowed to spoil stuff?
So, what were you intending to say?
Plans what I have for the future. I'm really looking forward to a system we are about to implement where you can observe Yuri. I think that could give us a much, much closer look into her personality. Things we wouldn't probably see from things Yuri would cautiously show us. You get my meaning?
I definitely get your meaning. With regards to whether or not we could tell the public this, yeah, I think we've spoiled enough of that to where I think this would be safe to keep in the recording. Aside from writing, I would like to ask, what are some other hobbies that you have outside of Just Yuri? What's the rest of your life like, hobby-wise?
Are you trying to imply that there is a life outside of Just Yuri? A joke aside, sorry. I'm in this mood today. I try to keep myself calm here.
No worries, this is informal. You go ahead.
One of my hobbies in real life, some people might have already noticed it, are sea drones. Everything that has a remote control is something you can keep me occupied with for hours on end.
Hopefully you haven't crossed into any of your city's limitations for drones, right?
Oh, I actually have, but psh.
Understood.
Yeah, and I'm currently learning to code as well.
Python only, or more?
Yes, it's actually Python I'm learning right now.
Again, recommendation if you really want to get into the depths, C++ is better, but Python is good if you want some projects to be doing now. So, I do have one small final question to ask right before I get over into any additional comments, if you'd like to.
If it is about Milky Tea, I will personally murder you.
So we can go over into additional comments if you'd like.
Oh, fuck you, Dio!
So, do you have any additional comments you want to tell over to the audience? Totally not Milky Tea.
Additional comments. I love you people. Stay as you are. Mwah. Oh, and something I certainly forgot, since it is pretty much expected of me. Exterminate!
Of course. Thank you very much, Dalek, for your insightful wisdom and desire to destroy the human race.
Was a pleasure to be here, Dio.
The more pain I can create for Slightly, generally the better.
Agreed. Hello, welcome over to the Just Yuri podcast. My name is Dio Sinekis, and here we have Spooky.
Well, I am the skeleton shit poster.
Well, as the skeleton shit poster, well, what else do you do other than being a skeleton and shit posting around here?
Well, apart from telling everyone that I'm the biggest freeloader on the team, I also, in regards to management, I work in the HR division, which means I handle hiring and firing and like dev interaction stuff. I'm also a producer for the team, which means I handle a lot of the management, especially within our GitLab, and regards to scheduling, which I'm not the best at, but I seem to be one of the few people who are willing to take up the task. I'm also the QA lead, which means I manage all the bug testers and things like our FAQ docs and stuff, just generally making sure that the product we give out is the best it can possibly be. And I'm also currently the PR lead, which means, of course, I handle all of the dev people interactions, verify announcements, and manage our social media stuff.
And being the QA lead, I think you've seen a lot of the feedback that the community has had over gameplay. So what are your thoughts over on the overhaul?
I guess to start off with, I should say that the process of making the overhaul has been one of the most painful things I've ever experienced in my lifetime. Especially the final few like weeks and months that was not fun. Overall, I think I know I definitely could have handled the final bit of that better, because I did not give us nearly enough of a window of time for that. But overall, I've said this multiple times, part one itself is entirely the setup, and the moment we can get all of the bugs addressed and all of the content out for that, and the moment we can start working on part two, I'm going to be very, very excited for that, because a lot of the sub-projects that I'm involved in is all going into part two, and so being able to work on that fully and being able to get that out there makes me much more excited, and probably makes all the pain that Part 1 created worth it.
We still have to pull out more of those patches, though.
Yeah, we still need... Oh, God. We do have a lot to sort out. But hopefully we shouldn't have that again, because my God, did I learn from our last experience.
Let's hope so. So, with regards to Part 2, then, of the features that you're willing to divulge, which ones are you most hopeful for, or most really want to get into?
Okay. I have to be very, very careful about what I say here, because a lot of the stuff in Part 2 hasn't actually been revealed yet, so... Okay, well, trying to be vague about it, and if I end up going, like, too in-depth, you can either tell slightly to edit it out.
Hey, slightly. Have fun.
Yeah. There's one feature in particular, which I'm not gonna refer to specifically, but it allows us to open up a lot more inside the mind of Yuri, and it allows us to write a lot more freely for stuff. And there's a specific section of that sub-project that allows us to also write a little bit more horror, which I am very, very, very excited for. And there's also, you'll be seeing when Part 2 releases, the beginning of the story content for Just Yuri, which is something I'm also really, really excited to work on. Unfortunately, I physically can't go too in depth on any of the stuff, but I am very, very excited to first off tease it, and then work on it, and then release it.
You stated earlier that the overhaul has given you quite a few lessons. Would you be willing to divulge some of those lessons? At the very least, what do you feel you've learned from the process of trying to get through the overhaul?
I guess one of the things I learned that availability and communication are some of the two most important things any dev can have. And I've definitely learned a lot in regards to first of managing stuff, like for example plate spinning. There was a period in either July or June where I took over as backup director because you were busy, and oh my God, that was not a fun experience, but it did teach me a lot in regards to juggling plates and stuff, and just generally trying to keep an eye and keeping up on things is really, really important. But specifically in regards to some of the roles I manage, I have learned tons about our GitLab and how it works. I've learned a lot about what the coders do as well. And then in regards to my role as the QA lead, I have learned that it is not a good idea to give to do a last minute rush of testing to get through things. Because while we managed to get through all the tickets, there was, and we all know this, a lot of stuff that was missed that could have been resolved if we'd have had a little bit more time to say, okay, let's do some general testing. So in future, rather than the previous method we had, which is very inefficient, we'll be doing consistent testing whenever we make something, and then of course and also an end period of testing to make sure that everything goes smoothly.
Is there any more advice you would give to aspiring modders, or just you think that generally covered it?
If I were to give any advice to aspiring modders, is don't overestimate the amount of time you have, and don't overestimate the amount of availability you have, because those days go by fast. And especially because Just Yuri is one of the most time-consuming things I've ever put my effort into, is that you can just you can go days and days and days into it and not even properly realize. So an awareness of your own capabilities, an awareness of the time you have, and making sure there is key communication with your team and with the public. I think those are the top three things any aspiring modder should look out to manage first and foremost.
I'd just like to comment that your microphone's shit. You currently sound as if you have a piece of cardboard on top.
Well, I mean, that's what I get from living in a bin. Skeletons don't pay the bills, unfortunately.
Understandable. I'd I'd like to ask then, outside of Just Yuri, the stress of the overhaul and now trying to get the patch out, what is there to the rest of your life? What are your hobbies?
I am a hentai enthusiast. I watch far too much. I watch far too much anime for my own good. I do a lot of writing and concept creation, and I recently started picking up coding again. But one of the things that I absolutely love most in regards, if we're talking things I do outside of Just Yuri, is playing, like just looking at stories and being able to unravel them. I think a lot of the stuff in stories like narrative themes or character creation is really, really interesting when you start to unravel it. So my favorite thing of all is to be able to pick apart stories and understand stories, which I do a lot in writing, reading, and playing video games, for instance.
Okay. And how has that expressed itself then over in Just Yuri? Desire for that theming.
Well, I mean, you of course know it's given me a lot of interest in how much am I allowed to say about the narrative?
Just that it's a storyline.
Yeah. Okay, it's given me a lot of interest in Just Yuri's storyline, for instance, which is something that we've been planning and working on and experimenting with. And especially with Yuri's character herself, there is a lot to unravel there, and there's a lot to pick apart, and there's a lot to play with, including when you look at a lot of DDLC's elements, there's a lot of different themes and character aspects that you can toy with and you can write about, and it's so much fun, and that's one of the things that drew me to Just Yuri originally. And so it's given me, as a writer, it's given me a lot to look at in regards to what can be done with Just Yuri, especially in regards to the horror aspects, which I do fully well plan to bring back into Just Yuri in some aspect.
Okay, then. Do you have any... that's actually about the end of all of the questions that I had personally for you. Are there any additional comments or things that you'd like to talk about over with the public, or would like to elaborate on?
First off, I'm sorry for how rough the release went to the public. It was a very hard 8 months of work, and the final months just got more and more difficult, and there was a lot of errors made on my behalf, considering I manage a lot of the team. But I really, really hope you guys do enjoy what comes in part 2 and what we will hopefully release in further patches. And I thoroughly hope we don't repeat the same mistakes of the past. And I think that's about everything I have to say in regards to that.
Well, okay then. If you don't have anything else that you'd like to talk about, or at the very least speak about over with the public or be asked about, thank you very much for your time, Spooky.
Thank you. I apologize for the shitty quality of the mic. I will invest in one, I don't know, after Christmas or something.
That would be very helpful, particularly for Slightly's ears.
Alright, see you, Dio.
I'm gonna edit this out.
Hell yeah.
How was this?
All of it.
We might as well start off with Slightly, so I guess I'll ask a personal question right now.
Go for it.
How do you describe your creative process? How do you you and your team make music? If not just for Just Yuri, in general.
Lots and lots of substance. No, I'm kidding. I can't speak for Leo, which is literally the other half of the music team. But for me personally, the short answer is it varies. Because I don't really have a set standard for the way that I make Just Yuri music or any music in general, because of the fact that I don't really stick to one genre or one, like, any specific type of music. And so what I kind of do to figure out what I'm doing, it just kind of varies depending on what I'm making. so like for example, if it's like this some of the sad, emotional piano stuff that you might typically find in this kind of game, well, I might start by checking out some similar types of visual novels and romancy stuff, or maybe I might watch some romance anime, and kind of get a feel for just like the mood that I'm trying to set. If it's something a little bit heavier, like something that I cannot mention, well, that's kind of my bread and butter, and that's what I know best. So I won't typically rely on getting inspired by that kind of stuff as much, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I can't speak for Leo, but that's generally how I go about doing it. The answer is it just varies.
What advice would you give aspiring artists then?
Do not be afraid to suck. Just accept that whatever you make at first is going to be terrible, and that, you know what, at least I did it, man. Just just get in the habit of doing it and not being afraid to just suck completely.
I can relate to that a whole lot. But yeah, thank you very much for that advice. I've been considering actually getting a little bit back into music, but
because I know you play piano, right? Don't you?
Oh yeah.
I took piano lessons as well, actually.
Formal or informal?
I
Let me
guess.
translate that. Well,
Go ahead, translate it. Sorry. Yeah, translate it to English, please.
did you have to take like a state or county-wide test each year?
No.
Informal then.
Yeah, I had very informal lessons, but my teacher was a really, really good teacher. As you can obviously tell.
It's fine to suck slightly. Your advice.
It's fine to be terrible, yes.
Well, I hope to actually hear some of your more piano compositions, as the most that I've heard so far is just guitar and more guitar and more guitar.
But remember the certain thing we can't mention.
Oh yeah, the certain thing we can't mention. Wink,
That's what I was talking about.
Okay. Might as well deflect the question to the annoyance of the audience. So, what are your opinions then over on the overhaul and the variety of tracks and the amount that we've implemented? Yes, you can be negative. I'm hoping to be a little bit more honest.
Well, the fact is, most of it hasn't been implemented yet because most of new music is coming for part 2.
Ah, right.
There is very, very little new music that's actually been implemented for part 1, for the simple fact that all the stuff that needs music is in part 2.
Understood.
There's like a couple new tracks. Like there's the new general conversation track, which I'm happy about. I need to add I would like to add more general conversation tracks because I feel like there still needs to be more of a variety. Don't want to hear the same thing over and over again.
From what I've seen, there's not a lot of variety within the same KS level. Just it's the same KS track.
Right.
If you have the same KS level.
Well, not only that, but a lot of KS levels will share the same tracks, which I'm hoping to alleviate. And so, it can kind of start to make things feel kind of samey.
Oh, that'd be 25 separate songs, so good luck with that.
Are you challenging me?
Hey, look. You are a challenge to yourself. You get to choose whether or not you're willing to go into that hellhole.
You got enough of a whip on me with the narrative music.
That is true.
It's quite the leash.
Well, I guess that actually just covers the other questions that I wanted to ask, namely future plans and hopeful stuff.
Oh, that's not quite hopeful stuff. That was just a thing I wanted to do. Hopeful stuff is...
That's future plans! Things that you're hopeful for.
Well, I mean, it's something I'm probably going to do eventually, but I don't know. To me, hopeful stuff means something that is possible but kind of out there.
In which case, what are your hopeful stuff?
More metal songs.
Right, I remember you trying to sneak a few in.
I successfully did.
Successfully did.
Needs to be
one,
more.
yes.
Yuri is a metalhead, I'm calling it.
I do not know how the audience is going to react to additional metal Yuri, but we'll see what happens, I guess. Maybe she goes to a metal concert one day and I just start angrily saying, "Slightly, why?" Or something like that. With regards to part 2, what are you hoping to put in?
Oh, man.
Genre style, if that helps. Making it
Genre style, yeah. I'm hoping like a mixed Halloween candy bag, right?
Just a little bit of everything?
Yeah, because I don't want, like, I want there to be consistency in like the feeling of it, but I don't want to stick to the same type of like genre over and over again.
Will we be expecting Just Yuri Vaporwave anytime soon?
Hell yeah, man. Just Yuri reggae.
Just Yuri rap. We might as well just hire Thutmose to come over here.
Nah, dude, like anytime you listen to reggae, you're gonna hear like the same 5 songs. We're gonna add to that pool. And just like
just make the Stewart filth even higher. There's some good reggae songs, but they keep getting buried by the popularity of the modern style, I guess is the way to put it.
Just Yuri sludge metal.
Good. Please do not give any of our writers further ideas to just randomly drag Yuri to a concert just so that they can claim.
Are you telling me that a concert?
Girl.
Are you telling me that going to a concert with Yuri is not a fantastic idea?
I will try to make it natural if you do have to divulge or indulge that desire. Particularly, apparently, the pervasive desire for Yuri as a big titty goth girl to actually big titty goth girl.
Oh, man.
Yeah, whatever the people want, I guess. So, yeah. That's about the extent of the... I'm repeating myself. That's about the extent of the questions that I had for you. Is there anything else you want to tell over to our audience?
Not off the top of my head, but I'll probably think of something later and kick myself for not including it.
Hey, maybe we can add it and stitch it into the podcast later. Depends on how much editing you're gonna do over the next week.
Oh yeah, I'm editing this, by the way.
Are you gonna edit yourself out of saying that?
I'm gonna edit that out.
Are you gonna edit this out?
Hell yeah.
How was this?
All of it.
Okay, so you're just not gonna exist in the podcast anymore.
Not a word will be heard.
I guess that's fine. You're the editor. I have no control other than just to get angry sometimes.
I mean, that's kind of your thing.
Yes, that
it's
is
like what you do.
So yeah, I believe that is the extent of what I wanted to cover. Thank you very much for your time, slightly.
You're welcome, Dad.
I'll see you in the editing room, son.
Hey there, everyone. The tables have turned, and this is Dio's section of the interviews.
Hello, my name's Dio.
I'm Faith HW, one of the interviewers.
We're also here for Dio's torture questioning. I'm here for Dio's questioning.
Right, Dio. Can you explain what your position is here in Just Yuri?
Outside of being my bitch.
Aside from being Spooky's bitch and his son, I am the director of Just Yuri, or at least that's apparently the official title I'm given. With regards to what I do here, I try to manage all of the leads in trying to push Just Yuri forward towards completing project goals. I'm also one of the programmers over here making the underlying backend code that you see a lot of the time. So if you start complaining about the Karma Sanity system, or about the dialogue calling, for example, if you're very bored of the conversations, I'm to blame for that, and I'm so sorry.
You're not getting bored of our conversations, are you?
Oh, Dio.
No, I I do get annoyed when
Everyone spams you with,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're not getting bored of our conversations, right?"
Yeah, we're not letting him live it down.
Damn. But yes, aside from that, I'm also just a general helper that goes in and helps out with a little bit of writing, a little bit of art direction, sometimes some PR, but I'm sort of bad at it. But yeah, director. Hello.
And what's it like being director of a to put it lightly, a waifu simulator? Because you've been here for 2 years, and obviously that's got to be quite rough on you.
Oh yeah, it's been rough as hell. It's been very weird. That people say that they never would have imagined themselves in this situation. I can personally attest to me never imagining 2 years ago that I would be in this situation.
And
Yeah, it's been rewarding though. It's been fun, stressful as hell, but I've met plenty of nice people along the way. And here I am right now, and I wouldn't trade any second of it.
and how would you 3 years ago have reacted to that if you told yourself that you were gonna direct a waifu simulator?
He would have made fun of me, and then we both would have laughed at it. And he would be very concerned as to my life goals and directions. But he would have been, oh yeah, I should have expected that from myself.
Pretty far, haven't you?
Far enough. I mean, I managed to get over into university, which I didn't expect, so I guess I'm doing something right while also trying to do this mod.
All right. Well, here's a important question. Who's your favorite dev?
Do I have to go
Skip.
and reach for my gun?
Skip.
No, you're not allowed to skip. Hang on. I've got a Nerf pistol somewhere here.
You gotta answer the question, Dio.
Okay, so my favorite dev is myself. You see, because I'm the best.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was hoping it would be me.
I have a bullshit button here and it's going off.
My God. That's right. It's bullshit because it's me. I'm the favorite dev.
Yeah.
I'm your
No,
mother,
I mean-
Dio. I'm your mother.
But moving away from slight obsessive natures towards who Dio likes the most, what do you do outside of JY so I can potentially find you and hunt you down for not being your favorite dev? I mean, what?
Don't try to find me. But what I do on my off time is I've rarely watched anime lately just because of the university stuff that I've been doing, homework.
Cretin.
Yeah. I still want to get over into watching Dr. Stone in all honesty, but
Season 1 just ended, actually. Just ended today.
which means I can binge it once school's over. But yeah, aside from that general hobby, I like to, do Just Yuri. It's sort of a hobby for me as well. And, taking care of my siblings, making breakfast every so often for the family. And, let's see. And, coding, for not just over in Just Yuri, but also as a side job. Part of my research work is doing a little bit of coding and analysis.
No, really. And out of curiosity, what do you do in university?
I'm currently studying physics, so I'm being brutally tortured by the wonderful thing that is, vector calculus. And
Wow.
Sounds complicated. Sounds complicated because I have absolutely no fucking idea what that is.
so imagine if every point in a given space had an arrow, and then you tried to take the sum total of an infinite number of arrows and find out where that sum total is pointing towards. That's vector calculus.
That does sound horrific beyond all comparable belief.
I
It
can
is.
see myself struggling in that.
And I'm currently going insane with the final coming up soon, so yay.
No, you should be fine.
I wish you the best of luck with your finals, Dio.
Thank you.
Now, what is your opinion on these two rare delicacies, corn and cocky?
Yeah, that's right. We're asking you this.
Yes, we are.
Not only are you going to have to explain the context for why you like something
No,
named
I will not
cocky.
explain the context.
Do it.
You can explain the context.
I'll explain the content. All right.
At the very
So-
minimum, I will say
Yes, don't.
I prefer the cookie.
Oh yes, I know you
Man
do.
of culture. Man of culture.
So,
If you,
well,
if you
all right.
explain
So,
corn, if you explain corn, I'll explain cookie.
Alright, so corn. Alright, so. Alright. Corn was a rather weird one. So, me and Dio was just speaking in, private DMs and whatever, and for some reason, I came up with this random joke where, Dio likes corn for some reason. I don't know why I thought of it, but for some reason, I started to spam Dio with images of corn images. And that just became a massive joke between us for some reason. And now yeah, and also the color green and other things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a it's a rather interesting conversation that we have. Wouldn't you agree, Dio?
No.
It's even better when out of context, Faith just in dev off topic just continually spams Dio. It just picks
Yes.
corn out of nowhere.
Yes, and the devs are like, it's really funny because devs don't understand why
have
I'm
no
posting
fucking
these
idea.
random corn images and tagging Dio in it, and they're just like, why are you posting random images of corn and tagging the director of Just Yuri in it? I'm like, you won't understand. I'm not gonna go in contact with it. It's just what it is. Here's the image. Enjoy the image. And then Dio proceeds to spam me with the words "no." He doesn't respond to me. He just says "no."
And cookie actually is a very minor thing that we decided to blow massively out of proportion. In that I can't remember what we were talking about, but cookies came up, and Dio, in the infinite wisdom of our Just Yuri director, just turned around and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna spell cookie COOKY," which if you're not aware,
I remember what it
that's not
was.
how you spell cookie.
Never gonna put that down, am I yet?
Yeah. And then we decided to, the dev team have decided to immortalize that by having a commissioned artist.
You sent
Make
me
it-
a fucking shirt with the word Dio quotation cookie spelled with Y over on it. And
It's amazing. Don't act like you don't love it.
And then sending me an entire fucking box of the cookies. Which I enjoyed, thank you.
No
But
problem. And then there was also Moxie Yuri baking cookies for you.
That
Yeah,
was an interesting art piece.
and I will never hang that on my wall.
But
Your cookies are ready, Dio.
inside jokes aside, here's a rather serious one. What within the team needs to be improved on most, and has that already been addressed? What changes are going to be made so we don't make the same mistakes we might have made with part one?
Communication. That is the number one, I would say.
Yeah, it's good too.
Well, it's almost like a tie between communication and organization. I know it's like the two core tenets of the team, and those are some of our weak points.
Feeling shots at there as the producer who handles organization.
Like, with regards to the communication between the leads and the devs to make sure that information is passed down as to what is to be done so that devs don't try to act on their own without knowing the full plan. That is something that we still need work on. We're currently attempting to address it with some of the new guidelines that the leads have to inform the devs after every management meeting.
And what are some of those guidelines, just so the public can know?
Yeah, one of them is that after every single meeting, the lead devs gotta tell the devs within their department about the content of the meeting that's relevant to their department, so that there's no confusion as to what the hell's happening.
All right.
Alongside
That's fair enough.
that, I might as well just go down the list of the thing that I posted a few days ago. That we're gonna try to do some more smaller chunk updates rather than the giant overhaul because... Okay, so the reason we wanted to do the overhaul... If you allow me to
Oh boy, okay, we're getting...
Well, I'm gonna rant. So, the reason we did the overhaul in the first place was because we noticed during the event plague, where we kept on doing event after event after event, back during around the winter of 2018, the spring of 2019, that we were putting in a lot of work into events that had temporary material that wouldn't last for the player. And so we wanted, hopefully for the overall, to focus on placing in content that would last, namely, would be permanent fixtures of what the experience would be. So art improvements, additional dialogue, improvements to the coding, fixes to some of the bugs, having the birthday actually fucking work. Because for an entire goddamn 2 years, the birthday didn't even trigger.
Wait, we had the issue with the birthday for 2 years? I thought that was a recent thing.
No.
Oh,
No. The player's birthday has never triggered until now.
So
It's
that
only
means...
an overhaul that we finally have a working birthday trigger.
So devs who've been here... No, not devs. So people in the community who've been here since day zero have
They've
only
never had
just
their
managed...
birthday.
So we could have just turned around and said, oh yeah, birthday is an entirely new feature, because nobody outside of us have seen it.
Well, theoretically, yes, but that would be a dick move. Again, this is a bug. Pure bug that's lasted for 1.5 years, and finally we fixed it, which I'm glad we did.
I like to call them unintentional Easter eggs.
Sure, if you'd like to hype that up as PR, why not? But yeah, I'm glad we finally fixed that. Let's see. Aside from that, also trying to work on making much more solid decisions after our meetings rather than just letting it all hang up in the air. As that seems to be a repeating pattern of talks to do something, but then we only form action / have a solid plan last minute.
Which definitely wasn't a thing that happened recently in the slightest.
Oh my god.
God.
Seems reasonable.
And alongside that is the idea for concurrent testing. Our general methodology for testing has been, since around middle of 2018, have there be a dedicated testing week, which would be the week before the release deadline, where it's just pure testing. The coders would be on full ramp to only do bug squashing, and the bug squashers would be fully active. There would be no features added into the build, just pure bug squashing. Problem with that, though. Well, the general benefit of that would be the idea that, given the pure focus on bug squashing, then people wouldn't be confused as to their general role. Coders won't be both adding features and fixing bugs of current features. They would just be either adding new features or debugging old features. But with this current concurrent testing, we're going to try to test out whether or not it would be more beneficial to have testing happen more early on as new features are being concurrently added, which means then there's more time to actually test shit. Because one of the bugs within the overall, as many of you might have noticed, is that sometimes Yuri asks if you're bored of the conversation.
Are you getting bored of my questions, Dio?
I'm getting more annoyed than anything.
Alright. Well, here's another very important question.
Yeah, one that we have to...
Sorry for
We have to really ask this question. It's really, really important.
Yeah, since you decided to be neutral on who your favorite dev is, Dio.
Yes. Where do you live, baby boy?
Tell us your location, Dad.
I live on planet Earth. I live somewhere within the third planet from the sun.
Okay, that's all I need personally.
I'm located somewhere on its surface, on a landmass.
But I would think that your home's in space somewhere, since your profile picture 90% of the time is a black void.
True. And, spoiler, I am not in space.
Well, we have managed to properly target Dio's location. Now it's just a case of finding him. If anybody else wants to help in the search, you can either DM me and Faith, and we will find our director, ladies and gentlemen.
And if you do, try to annoy me as much as possible. That'll
I will give you a nice box full of cookies and corn.
Look, I already know that anyone who comes in from Just Yuri is going to be there with the intent to have a laugh from annoying me, so I might as well just give you permission so that I can be mentally prepared for it.
You
Not
giving-
necessarily annoying you, more of trying to entertain you.
No, annoying. I'm here to annoy.
Son!
But moving on. What are you most excited for in Just Yuri's future? I know I'm unfortunately very, very limited to talk about it, but yeah, what are you most excited for?
I keep talking about this whole narrative thing that I've been wanting since the very beginning of the of my involvement as the director of the mod. And while there have been several stumbles in implementing it, I'm still looking forward towards progressing it with the current team that we have right now. As I'm fairly confident that this time we might actually have something more substantial.
You wait.
We'll see.
Right then. So, next question. What are your plans after Just Yuri?
After Just Yuri, if there is an after Just Yuri, so I'll keep it optimistic here.
If there is an after, what would your plans be?
My plans with regards to what I would do would be to, so after Just Yuri, theoretically, the optimal scenario is that we release the source code to the public, as well as the full rights to the public for them to use it however the hell they want to, adding features as they go. With that, the additional plan would be that I would look towards developing, at the very least, different games that would work off of the themes that I would be building up in the narrative, and starting a much more open freelance, I wouldn't really call it a gaming company more as much as an independent gaming group, just as Just Yuri is right now, but focusing more broadly than just DDLC. But maybe something, maybe like an independent title of some sort.
Yeah, so you'd be making your own indie games.
Essentially.
And I'm assuming you'd be taking from members of the team at that point and asking them if they'd like to join, or how are you going to find the people to help you in that regards?
I would at least
That'd be
try to ask some. I'd at least try to ask some of the people here over on the dev team if they'd be interested within the new side projects that I'd be creating. Again, this is the optimal scenario where we technically, quote unquote, finish Just Yuri.
Oh. I think that's quite impressive.
Okay, so then the next question then, which is also a very important and very serious one, is hang on, I've got to find my Nerf gun so I can point it at the screen.
Oh,
God,
joy.
son.
So Dio, real talk. When are you going to hand over the team to me so I can make DDLC 2?
No.
I will fulfill the 10-step program, damn it.
The 10-step program shall evermore be a dream, but it will be fun to watch you try.
Oh, according to the old cookie joke, Dio agreed to hand over Just Yuri to Spooky for one single cookie. Or in this case,
And Spooky has not yet spent the money to deliver to me any form of cookie.
You're challenging me. I can do it. I can do it here and now. Oh wait, no, I can't. I can do it on the 20th. I can organize sending you a cookie on the 20th. And then eventually...
There will be the
Dio.
chance that I may be convinced.
if I send the cookie first, will you hand it over to me?
There will be a chance I may be convinced.
Oh, we better throw down, Faith.
I'm gonna throw hands with you, son. I'm gonna take over Just Yuri before you.
All over goddamn cookie.
Alright,
Any
so
other
is there
questions
any...
before you take over Just Yuri?
Alright, is there any additional comments you'd like to add here? Anything else you'd like to say?
What I would like to say is just that, let's see, being the director of Just Yuri has been a roller coaster of insanity. that is the summary that I can give to everything. What I can say, though, about anyone that's aspiring, not just for, say, modding and DDLC, but overall from my experience of trying to start any project, what generally can keep a person going, and what one needs to ask before you really start it, is what do you want as the end product? Because if the goal is to be quote-unquote popular or quote-unquote successful in any form of monetary sense, then the project you should be going for is either scamming people or legally scamming people, so becoming a lawyer, potentially. But if you
Dio's advice, if you want to be like,
right?
scam people.
So, if the goal that you want to have is to make money, or at the very least the primary one is to make money, then the creative arts is not a good project for that goal. If the goal that you want is to make something, then be prepared to suffer for it. And I will be serious that you be prepared to suffer for it. Because generally with regards to the arts, you will come across the challenge of gaining the money for the arts and the people for the arts. And if any of those two come into any conflict with you at any point, be prepared for that to escalate at any time. But if you have the perseverance, the grit, and the actual honest desire to make something cool for the world,
or if you're just a massive masochist.
Or if you're just a massive masochist, which some of these devs are, you might be able to make something you're proud of.
All right, I believe that's
solid
everything
advice.
from us then.
Yep. I think that's the entire interview sheet.
All right, Dio, thank you for giving us your time today, and thank you for indulging us in our, at some points, potentially non-serious questioning.
No worries, it was quite enjoyable. Though, again, we'll see whether or not a cookie is the deciding factor for who's the next leader of Just Yuri.
Well then, I better get ready then.
I'll be prepared.
I'm
Thank you
not
very
going
much
down
for your
easily,
time.
baby. Thank you, Dio.
Thank you, Dio.